Ladies and gents, good evening. Welcome to Question Time Live, episode 136. And I wonder what we've got in store this evening. I did actually on, when was it? Monday, Tuesday? Koi Focus episode. I mentioned I was going to do a breeder special all about Nogami Koi Farm. Now, me being me, I've actually had an idea to really execute it quite nicely for something, maybe a bit of a different take for the channel. Who knows? I've got to experiment and have a play. So I'm going to sit tight and try and actually film that this week, which means we're free for whatever this evening. Still happy to have a chat about that if it's what anybody wants. But other than that, the floor is open to any questions that you guys have got. One I've thought about is maybe touching upon, because I've done a couple of bits of short form content on it recently around stocking levels and the filters, and in particular with the filters, how they are quoted by manufacturers with in relation to pond size and stuff like that. So tell me in the comments, what do you think? Is that something we'd like to dive a bit deeper into? Because short form only allows for so much, and I generally just fire all them together in one take as well as it comes out. So maybe that's one to have a look at. Or another breeder, possibly. It's just I found I got so much content when I started diving into this Nogami thing. I put it all together, thought, you know what, could do something there, and we need a bit better camera gear set up than just using this on the laptop. So, yeah, feel free to start firing any questions you would like me to dive into in the comments. What a day it's been, though. Again, proper spring days. It's a bit fresher this morning, I might add. I was out in my garage at 6 o'clock cleaning some fish tanks, as you do, and yeah, it was a bit nippy, but by midday onto afternoon, I was like, yeah, it's still there. Look, absolutely loving that. Can't beat a bit of having sun out, even if it's not too early. So yeah. Let's have a look. What's that Matthew got there? Here we go. The fun's beginning, ladies and gents, isn't it? I've got to say, I've not got too much more prepped on that basis since that idea went out the window. So we are just going to fire away. And if we've not got too much, I think I'll default back to that stocking level topic anyway, because it's just something I see, and it's nagged at me for years, to be honest. A couple of elements of it. In fact, we are going to go down that route. Why not? So there we go. Another element to it. Any specific questions around manufacturers' quotas on filter sizes or filter sizing in general, and stocking levels for your ponds and anything else, feel free. And then yeah, there's a rather important match on in a little bit, isn't there, when I'm done. I might actually slope off a bit earlier. Who knows, if we've not got a comments full of questions like we did last week. But anyway, let's start at the top and see what we've got, and then go from there. Good evening, everybody. Oh, there's one straight into it. Yes, mate. Pond stocking and best way to introduce new fish, since a lot of people will be doing that this month. Best way to introduce new fish. So there's going to be debates around this either way, and there's not a lot of particular wrong or right method. You will find a method that works for you over time. Now, there's a method around dipping. People dipping fish before they go in. Now, I'm kind of, my attitude towards this is I can see the sense in it. If there's something there, I'm always with medication. I'm more of the identify first before doing anything. Plus, with a dip, you've still got the chance, although you might eradicate anything, you're not gonna, if it's carrying any bacterial disease, you're not gonna stop that. You are also not going to stop anything that's going to come as a result of mixing potential viral illness. And even an outbreak of parasites within the pond because of the sort of stress of introducing a new fish, what comes along. So, and I think in the case of you guys as hobbyists, the need for kind of salt and introducing fish is not the same as on our side of the fence, because the stress level, the packing, everything, it's just not the same as we go through with fish arriving from Japan. So I don't normally a big advocate. I for one will never bring fish in without settling them in salt. It's so important because of a lot of the osmotic stress that comes from that process. But like I say, that's not what you're dealing with. And I'm not one for then, putting a preventatory or a precautionary medication into the pond either, because I think that can do more harm than good. So it all really starts back to knowing, if you've not got a separate quarantine system, this is, and your fish are going into your pond, what I would recommend is introducing in batches as much as you can. So if you've got, new fish, say every week, just use that as an example. Every one of them is a new stress event that's going to potentially upset your system. So what I would recommend is consolidating that a little bit as much as possible, getting that in. So the whole process of introducing new fish, any stress or upset that comes as an aftermath of it, you can get things settled down again and away you go, rather than having the constant stress factors which can come. And that is a reality. Whenever you're mixing two groups of fish together, you always tend to find something can kick off. So be mindful of that. Yeah, precautionary medications, I'm not a big advocate of. And then for me, it's just a case of whether you salt, don't salt. And like I say, I don't think it's massively important for you guys. And from there, normally you want to give it around 5 to 7 days of the fish being in the pond, observe carefully. Then I would advise giving it a scrape after that and medicating the pond at that point, should you find anything. But if you don't find anything, happy days, all clear, and on you go. And that's the only bit. Like I say, I don't see any harm in doing the dip up front if it's something that you feel. But what you can also do is, give them a bit of a scrape. PP dipping, I don't think there's any massive harm. But just the same, again, do you really want to stress a fish if there's no need, when ultimately you'll likely stress bits anyway? If you absolutely guarantee me through that dip you would kill traces of anything that could be there, then yeah, 100%. But say that fish is carrying a bacterial problem and you just don't know it because there's no visible signs, it's very unlikely you're going to stop it at that point. So yeah, that's where I'd be with it. And you can take your own variations of that along the way, of whatever works for you, depending how savvy you are with your observation, with your microscope work, and all the rest of it. So maybe you think you've got medication needed, for example. It sounds crazy, but you might have a small outbreak of flukes in your pond, and if you've got new fish on the way, often it's a good time, get it in and then whack the whole lot together. Just little scenarios like that can be quite useful, certainly with the cost of medication and stuff these days. You don't want to be using it unnecessarily. So yeah, a few bits to consider. The reason I say it's not necessarily the way, like I say, it's very different on my side of the fence with what we're doing, the volumes and the journey and the stress and everything they go through. What I would, and it's a big thing people do, is after transport is get the fish in the pond and chuck some food in. Now, again, at your scale, it's not going to be a big one, but they would be ideally rested. Let them have the rest of the day before you start introducing any food, just to adapt and settle down to that new environment. But like I say, more so on our side to yours, because the fish are in a very, very different state by the time they get to you. So hope that's useful for you, Matthew. Koi season nearly upon us. Absolutely. Or the summer season. I actually find that one interesting. I don't see the, pond season, yes, out in the garden more, the garden weather, but the koi season, there isn't really one. The winter one is becoming as big in a lot of different ways. If we talk about it, you see, when you say that to me, season, it relates to the kind of retail shop days and all the rest of it. But I think with the heated ponds, overwintering services, all the rest of it, the whole the whole game and engagement has completely changed now. But take your point. It's the sun shines around the corner. Pond season's close. Can KH be too high? Mine's usually at 6, but was 8 last time I checked. Not too high isn't going to cause you fish problems. There'd be arguments that, you know, you can move into the whole hard water debate and all the rest of it. But 6 to 8 there and stable, not a problem whatsoever. I tell you what, I feel absolutely I was fine till I've just fired camera up, and it's just hit me. That's because I was cleaning fish tanks at 6 o'clock this morning. There we go. Let's have a look. Evening, Ricky. How much do the polytunnels help with heat retention? Is it a big difference compared to outdoor ponds? 100%. So I don't cover the ponds in there. It's just that there's a mass residual heat in the greenhouse, but it makes a huge difference. Obviously, it cuts wind chill, and it creates that, you know, warm air atmosphere. So yeah, 100% compared to outside makes a massive difference. Go have a bit more water. I can't stop yawning now. We should start. I mean, is there any chance we can start doing question times at 7 in the morning as opposed to 6? I'm so much more sprightly at that time of the day. Hi, Ricky. I recently rewatched a journal special where you showed the day-to-day running of your farm. How has everything progressed now since that video? Are you planning to do another special? Mickey, I can't even remember it. I tell you, if you send me the link, I'll have a rewatch and see which video it was and come back to you on that one. But yeah, I think we was actually speaking about this the other day. So since I've had a bit of a pause on the channel, let's say, especially since the documentary, because everything's been so ridiculously busy, is yeah what it needs. I'm always one for wanting to mix it up and you know, push the bar or whatever, and hence the video I'm thinking about and this is off topic, Mickey, it's not related to that one, but what I'm thinking around the Nagami, the breeder special, is maybe a bit of one, because the journal videos will always be there. It's the background of the channel, but it's the stuff that fits in amongst it. Then the grow outs, I feel like it just needs a bit of something else to chuck in there. So maybe you guys have got some suggestions. Who knows? But yeah, there's a United, one of United ones I follow. I've seen them do something, but I know there's a shitload of work involved in it. Don't get me wrong. But I've looked at it, I thought, you know what, that could be quite cool, kind of punchy 8-10 minutes around certain things. So let's see where we can do it. I'll have a play with that one and see where it gets. I hope Stuart's here. Chris, evening, Ricky. Move coin to a swimming pool to start my build. 6,970 litres, 5k my original water in there. My Hutch storage gone all washed out. Mascal Baki, they looked mint before. It's likely because they're in the swimming pool, buddy. They know it's against the lighter base, like being in a bowl, stress, upset. I think you'll find that's why, no doubt, if you were to kind of put them back in pond environment, they'd be fine. It's quite similar to putting fish in a show vat. If the sum is that way inclined on the fish, as soon as you put them in that environment, it just fades off of them. So I think that's all that's happening there. If they're looking good within themselves. Paul Masters. Evening, Ricky. Can you have too much media in a moving bed? I've got 3,250 gallons, 13 fish to 65 cm, and about 350 litres of K1, K plus. Watched a video the other day saying too much can be detrimental to the system. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the science behind this, and I've actually never been in a position where it's been that way around, where there's been too much. Quite often the opposite, not enough. But I think that the concept around it is that with the modern media, it's getting the thickness of the biofilm to it, but it's ultimately, in the scenario you say there, it's going to come down to how much you are feeding. That is the ultimate governing factor in all this, and that's the kind of thing I keep coming back to in all this around stocking levels. So 350 litres, I mean, that's what I've got in my 1,200 gallon ponds, roughly. and obviously they take a battering with the food. But there's much more to it as well. It's not just a case of how much media. I'd be looking at flow rates, retention times, the whole thing. I think it's very easy just to focus in on one area too much. And actually, the thing to ask you there, Paul, is have you got any parameter problems? I think before we go any further, if you can answer me that, we'll look at it further down. You know, what is it you're struggling with? Are you struggling with anything? Because if you're not, then it's just not even worth answering, really. But I once, many years ago, remember a system, a guy, it was a multi-bay retro job done. It had huge amounts of media and really struggled to get that to kick in and get this trace nitrite to go away despite all the media. And in the end, I did actually advise him to take some out. And weirdly, I don't know if it was just timing or what, it did snap in not too long after. But I think in most instances, it's going to be rare. It really is. So anyway, Paul, give us a bit more information. Is there something particularly you're struggling on? And we can get into it a bit more there. Ian Ricky, even though with your comment about certain fish being culled by show breeders last night, do you envisage this changing and certain varieties being more available? It literally depends what mood the breeder's in and what mindset they're in, even aside from mood, as to what they want. Like I said, there's a few varieties out there. I'm not saying there's massive numbers of them, but there are certainly some where they are just getting rejected because the breeder doesn't feel he's got a market for them, or it doesn't meet whatever vision he's got going on inside his head at that moment in time. It's quite phenomenal, really. But yeah, the examples I gave were it's really genuine. And with Showa, Heelsaw is a big one because there can be decent amounts of them. Benigoi is another one. A lot of Benigoi from certain breeders just get rejected because they don't see them as having any commercial value, whereas others are taking a different approach. Dainichi's, all the rest of it, because of the, Benigoi is from one of them guys, a bit different to many others, but ultimately this is it. It's seen, and that's what makes me laugh at times with it. Years and years ago was just a reject fish, and now the demand for quality Benigois is quite crazy. Hi, Ricky. How would you go about starting up a pond that's been emptied of fish and left over winter and introducing a new batch of tocci into it? So how would you go about starting up a pond that's been emptied of fish? I presume it's been full of water. So on the basis that it's been full of water, like profile picture as well, on the basis it's been left full of water, just fire the thing up, and it's going to be different. In fact, I need to know. I'm not even going to answer that, John. Feel free to let me know. Is it still emptied of fish and left over in there? If it's been running and if it's still full of water is what I need to know before we go any further. That one. Would you recommend a drum with a backy or a pressure bio? Depends. Again, it's not a very specific question. I'm generally the drum thing. I'm coming round. By the way, I'll say I'm coming round. The Oaza one is really convincing me that all is not lost. My belief is changing though to the point of the comment is going to be that I don't see that there is any better drum than ours, and I'm going to get to a point where I'm not going to have it any other way, having seen how they're actually built. And just to me, irons out so many of the problems. But this is a pump fed scenario here. It's a very different one, but the reliability of that thing has been unbelievable so far. So that aside, it all depends what you want to achieve with the pond. My general vibe is that my primary filter would have a fluid bed as the main filtration. However you go about installing that is up to you, pump fed, gravity fed, whatever. And backy showers are an addition if needed, not always needed, because you could potentially deliver all you need to with the drum and the bio chamber. And showers are a nice way to add more biocapacity. Yes, if you design it right, degassing, bit of aerating, but more the degassing, and adding turnover as well if it's needed. I always say that bit. All right, pal, what would you feed at the start of the season? Would you go for growth and colour and colour together, or would you do both straight away? Start of the season, and if we're unheated, I mean, we're going to be slowly, we're going to be on summit more balanced as well, like Saki balance. So not straight in on the growth and colour unless you're heated and you're warm enough and consistently warm enough is the answer to that one. Good evening from Norway. In New York, USA, McCoy had been under a blanket of snow for 6 weeks, but outdoor temps are getting to 15C by the weekend. Wow, fair enough. Yeah, I bet you can't wait for 15C by the weekend. Crikey. What depth stream do I need to let my 56 swim between ponds? Yeah, ideas is to have more of a water garden. Yeah, mine. I don't love that. That's probably why I'm not best to answer on what you're doing. I mean, you want as much depth as possible. That's a potential predator trap. What you're talking about if it's too shallow. I see. I want to say a meter. It's just natural that I can't see you getting away with any less than sort of half a meter on that for him to swim. But really think about that in depth. I'm struggling to say anything to you because you've just got my spidey senses going. I'm not loving the sound of it, so I don't want to piss on your parade with that one, whatever you've got planned. But I would just say the deeper the better is what I'm going to go with. Sorry, look, all you got to do is bid more. That's it. That's how it works. Let's have a look. Oh, Mickey's got it there. Koi farm upgrades. Okay. Yeah. Maybe Mickey at some point. I think the journals we've got a lot to catch up on. So when there is actually something topical, we'll be going for it a bit more. That's for sure. Hi Ricky, what's best in a big blue activated carbon or bone char? Again, it depends on your water. It's good to understand what's going on. I mean, yeah, bone char is probably going to cover a broader range for you. I don't know how much more expensive it is, if it actually is at all. You got the catalytic, can't you, which I believe is for the heavier chloramine, is it? I can't quite remember. And then activated, obviously, your broad carbon. So, yeah, this is why I think that's just, at that point, I could literally just take a 50-50 answer, and it is just a guess when you don't fully understand your water. But if you're just going for one without having any of that insight beforehand, I think bone char is going to be the better option for you. Hi Ricky, got my tantra out today. Found looks like mouth rot. Gave it a good clean. Can you give me some advice on how to treat it? It's the only one in the pond. With this, the other fish are doing good. Okay, I would obviously pay very close attention to the other fish at this point, just to make sure that it is nothing else. So just bear that in mind. And then from there, you just probably want to be looking at topical treatment. The problem is, if you say rot and it is real rot, as in exposing bone or something like that, that again gets the spidey senses tingling, that's potentially something a little bit more you want to be mindful of, especially now coming into spring. If it is a case that you're unheated and that's the period you're going to move into, there could just be something sat waiting to go boom, if you're following me with that one. So in regards to that fish, I mean, a decent topical treatment on there is going to be your only option. But I would be more, mouth rot doesn't just come around without cause. Typically, again, I can't see it to know the extent of it, but if it's real mouth rot as I know it, I would be more looking at the broader system and really having a good check around some of the other fish to make sure there's no signs of the early onset of a bacterial problem. Other than that, like I say, topically treating is your option right now. I know you've covered this before, but the new build progress, 4.5 by 3 by 1.3, where would you put the returns, please? So for me, my one directional concept, I'm all at one end. So what you got 4 pi, it's kind of almost squaring it, but on your obviously on the longest end, one of those walls, generally the wall, if you've got your filter chamber at that end especially, wants to be one of the ones where you return straight back through that. So you've got the longest run with a one directional flow, air and everything at one end, moving down. That's exactly where I put them. As for where you position them from there, above water, underwater, to be honest with you, I don't give a monkey's. I prefer more above, because there's benefits from the splashing and everything that gets created. But if you want them just below or further down, that's up to you. Not going to make too much difference so long as you're getting that flow. That's what ultimately matters. Hey Ricky, what do you think of the Sakai new food by Saki? Yeah, Ikari. It's all tied up at the minute, isn't it? I've seen it used. I've not had a chance to use it. I've seen it used, and yeah, I've some nice. Let's just say nice results. Looks good. I can't really pass judgment till I've had my hands on the stuff to actually really see. I think it's more aimed at the bigger fish for sure, given the availability of pellet sizes and that. So time will tell, but I don't even know if it's got the full loading of the Hikari German, which is a big bit for me. So until we've got to that point, can't say too much. But again, the original Saki, again, still going to take some beating. Although I do like the concept with it kind of being a growth food with that wheat germ element. Could be interesting, kind of working against what growth food can do to the Shiroji a little bit. So as a concept, I like it. And obviously anything Sakai and Hikari do, especially like that, is always going to be of interest. But I think as an overall, it takes some beating still. I stand by the one. Evening all. Ricky, my Deutsch Sankey scraped its head, removing the skin. Is there a healing treatment? Will it heal on its own, or is it a permanent blemish? Yeah, that's tough. So, I mean, in regards to it, any physical damage, you can just give it a bit of topical treatment, and obviously that should all be good. In regards to the colour, it will depend how far it's gone. Now, if it's a younger fish, you've got more chance. If it's gone really deep, you could have actually permanently removed the colour. Time tells. It can depend, and it's hard without seeing it, because the overriding colour quality can be the real important part to that. If it's got real intense colour and it's fairly young, you've got a higher chance of it coming back. But hard for me to say exactly without seeing it what my guess would be. But if it's gone really deep, the chances of getting full recovery are going to be a lot harder. What I've tend to find as well in the past, if you get it where it takes like a circular chunk, it can really recover quite well. But what it tends to do is get really, really small and then struggle to actually completely fill into the middle. So it's really frustrating when it happens. Chris has got it, look. Hit the button. Right, let's have a look. Rushing to get new pond built before the end of March. Nexus from bottom drain for main filtration. Fit a skimmer on a separate line or not bother. I just think I've seen how skimmers work most of the time, even the ones that are kind of replaced the full block, the bespoke made ones. If you feel like you need it, if you know the pond is going to be troubled by leaves or anything like that, surface debris, a skimmer is there for that purpose. If you're looking at it as a route to an outlet from the pond, you're better off just fitting something mid-feed or somewhere along them lines and valving it off, because I think you're just a lot less hassle. Skimmers can tend to be a pain in the arse. So, and obviously around feeding time becomes another problem you got to work around, especially if you're considering using an auto feeder. So just think about it all. If you're unsure, it might be worth at the point of construction fitting one anyway, and again, just making it so you could purge the line out, not necessarily using it, but depends how far you want to go. You know your garden, the environment, and what potential problems you might have. But I think too many people just put them in as a kind of like a water outlet, and then find that the reality becomes quite frustrating when you're then trying to balance, feeding patterns or using an auto feeder. Right, back to John's question here then. Water is in the pond but not running. Okay, so what you're gonna have there is there's gonna be elements of mature water, let's say. It's not completely new water. There's gonna be an ecosystem there, but who knows, it could have gone really bad in that process as well. So what I'd be tempted to do if it's get it all fired up and running, give any of the filters a good clean through, purged out, you name it, let it run for a little while, probably a dose of PP into the pond just to try and level out any bad, and then you're treating it as a new system to the biggest degree, because biologically it's going to be dead. So you've really got to start feeding, seeding that up, and that's just going to be a case of slowly building that stocking up. If you've got it heated, you're going to have a bit of chance of keeping it, of firing it up a lot faster. Other than that, it's going to be gradual as and when the weather will allow you to. Hi Ricky, what's your opinion on medication destroying the filter in a mature pond? Yeah, it never destroys it. I mean, it have to be some. I think the level of dose that would destroy a filter system would also destroy your koi. So I don't see that as something that's going to happen. What you'll tend to find is you knock it back a little bit. And depending what medication it is, it's not all medications. PP with the likes of K1 might, and it is known to cause a temporary setback and then actually increase performance after it, which is an interesting one. Formalins are a nasty one for hitting filters. Alprex has been known to, although acroflavin generally on its own doesn't tend to hit filters. So yeah, it depends. Really depends on the treatment, but no, not destroying. Like I say, it'd be a dose that would also destroy your fish. My Tancho Tamasaba are turning gold color instead of white. Will it be my water? It feels like it will be something to do with your water, Denise. Yes, because that's more of a tinting of the white skin. Are they male? Is it male? You come into a time of year when they might look to spawn, you might get a bit more of it, or is it something potentially diet related that could be doing it? Is it a good idea to put carbon in? I'm guessing that's meant to say backy shower. Brilliant. So, I mean, yeah, I see no harm in it. You want to have it submerged in water. Definitely, you want to have good water passing over it and through it. I think having a carbon bed where the water's forced a bit more might get better overall performance, but there's certainly no harm that can come from that one, Philip. There we go. Decisions made. Oh, Stuart, what I thought we were pals, Stuart. Just fits an ARP controller from ozone system. What do you think's the optimum ORP for koi waters? Stu. I thought you knew me better than that, to be honest. So just not shit I get involved in, pal. So yeah, moving on. Maybe somebody else who's into all that shit can help you, pal, but not me, pal. Not me. I wouldn't have even fitted the ozone system. So there's one where we'll not. Yeah, we don't need to get into all that anyway. Greetings from Belgium. What steady water temperature would you start giving Saki balance in a 100 pond at 12 degrees at the minute? I mean, at that, a tiny bit, I'd be probably, once a day, tiny bit should all be good. I think the important thing here is to be consistent with what you're doing and just don't add too much food. So you rock the pond anyway, but the fish will be absolutely fine with it. Food color, I don't know what all that bit is. Oh, some corrections. Oh, there we go. You knew it all, Stu. I'm fucking wind up. How horrible. Hi, Ricky. Can you have too much airspeed in the K1, hell, etc., and turn it too fast? Yes, 100%. Because you've got that, especially with K plus. I speak of here, not too sure with Helex, but K plus, you've got the internal retention, the little pocket of water that sits in there. That if you're not careful, you can really blow it out and damage it, which you don't want. Hence why generally the best way is to use the drilled tube as opposed to the air stones, because it's a lot more calm and creates that steady kind of glug and bubbling as opposed to the ferocious boiling that you get from air stones typically. Yeah, it really depends on what's in the diet. Doesn't The price is irrelevant. There could be ingredients depending on what it is that might cause it, trigger it. Some diets where they've say it's color enhancing as well. They've got things like krill meal, shrimp meal in there, which can cause exactly what you're suffering with the shiroji very, very quickly. So there you have it. I've just hit the bottom again. That's 2 weeks. 2 weeks in a row. Do we need a break, ladies and gents? Anyway, let me get back to what I said there at the beginning. Feel free to keep anything coming through. That should have been a coffee, not a water. Jesus. I'm not going to see it end at match, am I? It's fucking not happening. I'm going to be asleep slavering on myself on the sofa. Right. Stocking levels and filter systems. I'm going to start with the filter systems one first. It's a bit of a short form I did the other day, because this one's always tickled me a little bit. And I think if you're out there, you're looking at specking up a system, what you're going. And the reason I prompted it, I was looking at something on a particular manufacturer's system for some reason. And I looked and I thought, I'm curious. And it quoted this on a pond. Then I looked at a couple more, and a lot of the quotas it'll say like for ponds up to 20,000 litres, let's say. And I genuinely look at that, and I know a bit what's going on, but let's just take it on face value. I look at it and I go, what, how? Just how have you got to that figure? There's far, far, far too many variables in that to just say that filters up to that size. And this ties into the stocking level bit as well. A lot of where they actually come from, so your drum filters, Nexus, you name it, a lot of this all is based around flow rates, because they will generally look at, if it's pump fed, how much they know that water you can safely push at that filter before it'll overflow. If it's gravity fed, how much you could pull through it before it eventually dries out, because there's only so much water you can drop out a 4-inch pipe and pull out a 4-inch pipe as well. And through testing they'll get to those figures. With the drums, it just seems to be, look, well, fucking hell, if it's just an example, if it's 15,000 litres through a 4-inch pipe and there is 4 4-inch inlets and 4 4-inch outlets, then we've got to 60,000 litres. Again, real world, even on that one, I can tell you, not a fucking chance. And it's probably with the drums it irritates me the most, because I know from first-hand experience, I'm not pulling anywhere close to what I should be able to pull through them drums. And it's because of the amount of cleaning in the cycling and stuff they do. It just never happens. It's not real world implementation. But in regards to a system where there's biological filtration, you're absolutely, they can't do it unless they need to start quoting in potential feeding levels. And this is the bit really in all this. And I've been floating around this kind of subject for a little while now, especially when it comes to stocking. But a filtration is going to be ultimately dictated by how much food it can process mechanically and biologically. Mechanically is a lot harder to determine. Absolutely crazy, to be honest. Comment going in there. I love that. Yeah, I think drums need to be sold on the amount of waste it can handle, not float. Absolutely 100%. 100%. But coming back to it, it's hard to determine, on mechanical sides of it. So, but biologically, there is data, around K1 and other medias of how much food it can handle. And this is ultimately what it all ties back to, because how can we say, you take that 20,000, so this filter does it up to 20,000 liters. Well, some of them filters only come loaded with an amount of media. Take a Nexus, for example, it comes with 50,000 liters up, 50 liters of media up front, but you can expand it up to 200 in the small one, or is it 150 now, I think, and up to 300 in the big one. That is a huge difference in what that can handle. The thing that won't change is the flow rate you can pass through that filter. That's still fixed. So that that is the side of it that I would urge you to consider when you're thinking about this and looking at these systems. And determining what flow rates you might want is also interesting. But the bit I'm going to urge you to really consider, and there's no exact science to this, and you don't need to be exact, and you can have a play around with it. And I would actually, my guess is, I've not done it, probably could. ChatGPT would piss this, knowing the kind of stuff that it does. There are figures out there that will give approximate weights on certain sizes of koi, and your average feed in 1% of body mass all across the total collection would be the rough feeding level. Now, you might not even get to that. Most people are, when they actually run that exercise, realize you're probably underfeeding. Yeah, but then you look at your fish and go, my fish seem all right. Yeah, they will be. I think it's hard. You need very few will actually have malnourished fish at that point. But that's the carrying and getting the volume. That's when you step up from 1%, 2% and beyond with what you're doing. So you can go on there and you can go and determine, look, right. And I'm not forgetting as well, you're looking at probably your end case scenario, because what you do in between all that will change massively. Because if you're thinking, right, my ambition here is to raise 20 fish up to 70 centimeters, but I'm going to start at toe site at 15 cm. I mean, that's fucking worlds apart. But ideally, what you want to do is spec for your end goal. So then take them 70 fish, an average body mass, 20 fish at 70 cm, an average body mass. It'll calculate it and you will get X amount of weight across all that. In fact, I'm going to do this exercise at some point and have a look. And from there, go, right, well, if I really want to push these, let's say I'm going to feed 3% of body weight, or ask it to, get all three, 1, 2, 3%. There we go. You get the end figure, you can work it out yourself. And then from there, you can start reverse engineering everything from that point onwards. So you might run that exercise and go, fucking hell, if I want to feed 3% to really hit it hard, then I need, and there's quotas out there for the filter medias as well. It'll no doubt be able to pull all that information in, but it might say, fuck it, I need to be feeding, a kilo a day. Let's just round it at that. And then from there, you can determine, well, I would need X amount of liters of media. So if I'm planning on having Nexus filters, all of a sudden, oh shit, if I want to achieve that, I'm realistically going to need 2 Nexus filters to get the capacity of media I want. This is all just in theory, by the way, to prove the point. From there, you're going to know that you need 2 outlets from your pond. So that might be 2 bottom drains. It might be a bottom drain and a 4-inch midwater feed, all the rest of it. That's the scenario. Or it might be that, right, okay, then I'm probably going to need to chuck in a big shower as well if I'm only running with a 1 Nexus. Then from there, you can start looking at, flow rates as well, what you might achieve. So you might think, well, look, I'd like the possibility to be able to turn over this whole pond once an hour or twice an hour. Again, in theory, I'm not saying I'm advocating for anything here, but that might be what I want. So then you're left with, right, so I know I need 2 Nexus and I want to turn over X, Y, and Z. Now, my ideal flows through my Nexus, the slower the better. So say once every 2 hours through each Nexus, but then combined, already you're turning over once an hour. See where it is. and you just work everything back from that point to give you a rough idea of where you'd want to be based on that scenario. Then you can work it against budgets and all the rest of it. And that for me is just the logical sense. I cannot buy into anybody, absolutely anybody, just going, well, yeah, this filter's quoted for this size of pond. The only thing you can do that for generally with UVs and heaters is as close as it gets. But with filters, not a chance. Not a chance. Too many variables. And for me, food is the biggest thing that has the impact. So I tie this back into stocking levels because I've said the same. That's how you can eventually work out your stocking level. Same process. Even to maybe figure out of how much food you might need to feed and what your current system might do. It's always going to be dictated. A volume of water, a pond system will, with good filtration or any sort of filtration, with just a collection of fish with a steady bit of food keeping them ticking over, will perform great generally. The minute you start tanking it with food is when the pond will fall apart and all the problems will start if the filtration's not designed to handle it properly. And that's processing the mechanical waste that comes from heavy feeding and then biologically breaking it all down as well. So when you see these, and they really are piss boilers for me, big time. When you see people giving it the old, one, and oxygen comes into it with stocking levels as well, by the way. But that's, I know where the lines are with that stuff. Trust me. It probably pays less of a problem for you guys, more so than it does me. But I've lost my thread there now as well. Distracted myself. Pisser. The stocking, so the feeding, that's it. So yeah, when you start hitting it hard with the food is when a filter and a pond environment just changes. So how can you determine one fish per X amount of water? Because all the same variables apply. I've got a 4,000 gallon pond. I'll take one of my 3.5K ponds that's got a drum filter. It's got a fluid bed with 500 litres of K1 in it, and it's got 2 meters worth of shower full of media in it. Then you take the next guy who's got the same size of pond and is running it on a Nexus 200, let's say. That is not the same. It's not even close to being the same. So how can a theory of a stocking level reply on that? It's always the feeding level. How much feed can it handle and process? Now, yes, oxygen will play its part in this, as I say, because oxygen demand, actually in my stocking, oxygen becomes a problem quicker than feeding does. I get both pretty close in the height of summer, to be honest, but oxygen's a bigger problem for me. And I've had that, I've got quite a posh, in fact, I hope you're all sat down when I say this. I've got quite a posh Hannah testing meter for oxygen because that is what I've been massively curious about. And yeah, it's I would say, what a lot of the books say, reality is very different. And I can't see any of you guys out there being plagued by oxygen problems if you've got the typical equipment, decent filtration, water movement, and air pumps running. Not a chance with the stocking rates that you carry. So yeah, that's my take on it all. And with modern tech, it's not too. I think ChatGPT will run that easily and would give you an idea. But it all comes back to me for feeding, because I can fill one of my ponds wall to wall with fish, and I do small bodies of water as well. One of the ponds on quarantine in Nishikigoi in at the moment is I think there's 400 fish in it. It's probably running at about 600 gallons of water. There's 400 of them in there, and they're fantastic. But feed's a good amount, but it's very steady. It's not growth rate feeding. It's not a feeder on there. If I put a feeder on there, I think it would take, from past experience, 3 to 4 days before that pond's tanked. That's how far it would get before it was absolutely in a mess and having to stop. So yeah, it's I've got another shout out request. Awesome. Yeah. So it's just reality. It's the practical realities of it all. But like I say, the minute I introduce serious feed to that pond, it's screwed. So that's where it is. And the question there: can you put too much oxygen into a pond? I think most of you would struggle. I think if you think about it, and this is where this gets confused a little bit, your air pumps are only pulling air out the atmosphere and pushing it through. So there's what, 20 odd percent oxygen in there. Most of it's actually nitrogen, which you don't want in your water. You want to be getting that off. And then with the air pumps, how they work, a lot of the time, obviously, everything that's in the bubble that escapes to the surface just pops off back into atmosphere anyway. So it's a lot more to do with the water movement and natural gas exchange and increasing surface area for that than directly it. So no, I don't think there's a scenario where I've really seen anybody get too much oxygen into a pond. The way you would do that potentially is through oxygen injection mechanisms. I've had to play around with these through a certain technology, and I got oxygen saturation to 110 or 115%, I think it was, in warm. I mean, fucking 25, 26-degree water. That was very, very hot. So, but even then, it's still a lower amount of oxygen as well at that point. And they were just buzzing for it. But on the very, very extremes, obviously, there's things like gas bubble disease, but it's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. And I think gas bubble, I've never had to experience it. I'm not sure if it's actually more related to nitrogen. Now I've gone and dropped that one out there. So there we have it. Decent ORP would tell you if your filtration up to spec, i.e. clean water, dirty water, organics together with good aeration. Look, I agree. And if that's the route as a koi keeper with the different meters and testings you want to go down for that stuff, then 100%, go for it. I'm not here to stop anybody doing anything. But in my world of keep it simple, that for me, there's another thing to be checking. I actually have a fantastic tool for telling me how clean and dirty my water is. And they're here, look. And then quite a bit of experience that goes with those eyes. So, and that's just me. It's where I'm at with it. You guys know it, but like I say, would never just discourage anybody if that's the route and it works for you. And I get it more from a hobby side as well, with the tinkering and checking things and all the rest of it. But there's one there as well. I'm not even going to, but even down to, like, say, water smells and bits and bobs there, you can tell so much with what's going on. Yeah, there you go. That's just me with all this, and I think I don't need to say it too much right now. It's yeah. Please, can you say hello to Lucy in New Toxiter? Lucy, hello. Brilliant. Yes, interesting, Stuart. One of the most important things watching is not having too big a bubble size. That is the general belief. However, there's a very, 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 very clever guy I know, I often speak to, been in this industry for a long time. And the last chat I was having him with that is how much he hates these fine diffusers, because all you're generally doing, if they are diffusing more in the water, is diffusing more nitrogen into the water. And fucking hell does that make sense when it's atmospheric air you're dissolving in, and such a tiny, tiny bit of it is oxygen. And the nitrogen is the bit you do not want, trust me. So yeah, there's just all these old kind of things that get passed and banded around all the time. But like I say, the main thing we want, and this is why I need to get the information that he explained to me once upon a time about why fluid beds at a certain depth were actually better aerators of water than air diffusion. And we do actually know that the diffusion that we use through air pumps is actually one of the least efficient overall for actually getting oxygen levels up in a pond. They really are, Mickey. I feel absolutely fucking battered. That conversation perked me up a little bit then, but I am so shit at this time of night. I really am. Lucy's happy. There we go. Oh, I've managed to skip a question there, Mark. I do apologise. Ricky, have you ever seen the test when somebody tested the oxygen levels going into the shower he used and tested it, left the showers? Yes. Well, I don't need to have seen it. I've done that test and know full well that aeration with showers needs to be very, very specific. But I think this is why you might find the likes of Sakai use the things empty. I've never run that test, and it's all designed about mainly degassing, but then the airflow through it. Because if you don't get correct airflow, you can't drag oxygen into the water column. And then at that point, all you've got is something in there, especially when you've got the media, which is going to be consuming oxygen, is a device that's consuming it. Obviously, what you don't measure there is what's getting gassed off along the way, CO2, nitrogen, bits like that, which is where real advantages can come in. But yeah, the aeration bit is... And this is the biggest bit, in conversations generally around fisheries and stuff like that. It's more about what you get off the water to improve the health as what you get in, because oxygen to a certain point, that's it, you're done. And then it's about what else is being trapped in that you need to get off. So, and I think that's where you'll find showers really come into their own. Hi, Ricky, which food do you recommend to maintain quality, not interested so much in growth rates? Sake balance, sake akari balance. And if you're not too bothered about pushing the growth in the warmer months, you could mix a bit of color through with it just to give the pigments a bit of a boost. What was that? It'll make my day. Can you say hello to Bardo? It'll make my day. Hello, Bardo. Brilliant. And that's the same one down here. Hello, I have a 3-inch bottom drain and it isn't getting all the trash. What do you recommend? You just had your shout out. Now I'm in another one. It's not getting all the trash out. I think you might have bigger problems there in flows around your system, maybe even flow rates. Or your mechanical filter. I don't think the drain size there is potentially your problem, to be honest. Boom. I've hit the bottom, ladies and gents, and I think I've hit the bottom of the tank as well. So I will call it a day at that. I hope you found tonight's question time useful. As ever, some fantastic questions there come in. And yeah, I'll go and see what the lineup is and keep me fingers crossed that the boys get a result again tonight. Oh, you missed me. What did I miss, Chris? Let's have a look. Hang on then. I can't be missing someone. Hang on. Oh, there we go. I did miss it. Hi, Ricky. My koi seems to be a little silver rather than white. I've started using sake white, pond heated at 13. Are we saying that as in a good thing? Has the white come up that much that they're now? Because I mean, a good shiroji might look a bit more like that than white. So I don't think there's anything there you're saying to me would be a bad thing, Chris. To be honest with you, I think what you might be experiencing is the quality of the shiroji picked up massively. So yeah, there we go. Brilliant. There we go. There we go. Mickey, football was sharks because you support a shark teammate. And on that note, I am going to get off. Enjoy the rest of your night, ladies and gents. And I might catch you again this week. I know I'm on another auction, but let's wait and see what it brings. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks for tuning in.